Good to have you back, along with Michael Cohen of The Athletic and Bill Huber of Packer Report. Well, General Manager Brian Gutekunst held his pre-draft news conference today over at Lambeau Field and covered a lot of ground, but he's kind of just like his predecessor. Said a lot, but didn't say a whole lot. But he did say that as of today, his draft room is pretty much closed up. It's curtains, and they still work in there, but they're no more peeking at the draft board. But unlike John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders, he did not send his scouts home for the week concerned about their trustworthiness.
You know what? No, did not do that. We actually did, with Easter falling in the middle of this, we've only had this happen a few times, but a lot of our guys took off Friday night and went home to see their families on Sunday. Some of them stayed around here as well, but came back this morning and we get started. So
how do you deal with all the information and misinformation?
I think if you've done your work ahead of time, if you've really put the work in and stuff, you kind of can sniff out the stuff that's false information and the stuff that might have some legs to it. I think you kind of address each thing as it comes, but like most people say, 90% of it is false information at this time.
All right, so we'll be covering a lot of false information over the next couple of days. Bill and Michael, what'd you think of Goody's show today, and did you get anything out of it?
Not much. He said they didn't have any super big needs. That was something.
Yeah, it's kind of what you expect. I mean,
you disagree?
Yeah. How long? How many questions can he answer, and how long can he talk for without actually saying much about what's going to go on? So I thought it was, sleight of hand and all that kind of stuff.
Let's not kid ourselves. As you said, this team has a lot of needs. The roster has suddenly got really old for being the youngest team in the league for 3 or 4 or 5 years running. I mean, the tight end position is ancient. They've got some old offensive linemen. From 2012 to 2015, Ted Thompson drafted 36 players. There are 4 left on this roster. These are between 5 and 8 year veterans. That should be the bulk of your roster, in my opinion. Mike Daniels in 12, David Bakhtiari in 2013, Devontae Adams and Corey Linsley in 2014. Nobody left from 2015. All bad picks. What happened?
Yeah, I guess they're all bad picks.
I guess they're all bad picks.
I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it. How you can be miss on just pick. I mean, that entire draft class from 15 is gone. I mean, how can you miss on every pick? But he managed to.
15 was really bad. I think if you look a little bit earlier, they would have. I mean, Casey Hayward and Micah Hyde have turned into two pretty darn good players. So they didn't miss.
Yeah,
on
that's
everybody.
true.
They didn't miss on everybody. But no question, 2015 was the issue, and I think that, that's really what's hurt them because they just, if you go through an entire season where you have nobody left from a draft class, and unless you hit it out of the park with undrafted rookies that year, which they did not, you basically went back a season. It's as if the draft never happened.
Yeah, you look at 2016, that actually is a good draft. You got Kenny Clark and Fackrell showed up, and Martinez and Lowry in the 4th round. That's pretty good work there, but you can't. That's like you said, when you miss an entire draft class.
Were they lulled into thinking that, all right, we've got the MVP, we got the best quarterback in the league, and even Gutekunst said that again today. That, all right, we're just going to try and fill in the rest of this 7-8 years in a row, defense, first round. You wonder if that just kind of lulled them to sleep that, all right, we've got Rodgers, just like they had Favre, and all right, that should be enough. We get a couple of guys.
It was last 4 drafts. The only guy in the first 3 rounds was Devontae Adams. For all the problems that Rodgers had and Rodgers, McCarthy, and all that stuff, my God, you got to give the guys some players at some point, don't you? Or offensive lineman. Jason Spriggs hasn't panned out. You got to help that side of the ball too, and they just didn't do it because it was forever defense.
Yeah, it's definitely been imbalanced, and honestly, with the strengths in this draft, it might not change.
I know it might not.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't know. What do you think? If things had been more balanced, would it have played out differently on the offense? Do you think?
Yeah, maybe. If you have the pieces in place, one guy can do so much, right? Yes, best quarterback in football, whatever argument you want to make, him, Brady, whatever. But if you don't have the pieces, but did they not have the pieces? Was there something else behind the scenes? What excuses?
But even in that time frame, they had pieces. They had Jennings begetting Jordy, begetting Jones, begetting
Janice.
Janice. Yeah. And they tried to solve the running thing. Eddie Lacy burst onto the scene and ate his way out of the league in 2 years. So they did consider that and got some production out of those peripheral positions on offense. And they had a young line that kind of held it together for the most part. So they kind of just got lulled into thinking we've got to keep bolstering this defense to get that better and make us championship level quality.
And a big thing is struggling to find that tight end. That guy, middle of the field, seam guy, who can also block, be that extra offensive lineman, but be a difference maker on the offensive side of things. And a lot of people thought you were going to get that with Bennett. Clearly wasn't. Did not work out. But then with Graham as well. And, yeah, he's targeted a lot, but he's not making that
Certainly did have
big-time
the
impact.
Yeah. So any way you can prioritize needs on this team? You said everywhere, but there's got to be a pecking order. Michael, you got anyone?
So I've been kind of going back and forth between what I think are their actual needs versus where they're most likely to get a valuable player in the draft, because I think safety is their biggest need, but I'm not sure there's anybody in the first round except maybe Adderley at 30, Nasir Adderley, that makes a ton of sense to take at 12. So then you're talking about, well, where else can they get value? And again, I go back to the defensive line, or if one of those inside linebackers falls. I mean, Bill knows these guys better than anybody. I mean, that defensive line is so stacked that if one of those guys falls, don't you have to take him?
Yeah, especially when you got not Kenny Clark, he'll be back, but Lowry's going to be a free agent, and Mike Daniels is a free agent. We asked Goody about it today. It is a forward-thinking draft. It's not just this year.
Right.
It's down the line, and they're going to be potentially shorthanded there next year. So, I mean, Ed Oliver's just a game-ruining kind of guy.
Totally.
If he falls in that range, gosh, how do you not consider it?
Is he a guy you think might fall to 12, or do the Packers try to trade up if he does start to slip? I know the Jets have been pretty high on Oliver.
I would stay put. I mean, you're going to get a good player, I think, at 12. Just stay there and be happy with who falls to you, I think.
You're going to have Lawrence. You're going to have, Sweat, Polite, or all these guys that have been mentioned in the teens area, I think, available. Some of those linebackers, Burns, and the rest of that group, I think are all. And I'm leaning with you, Michael. Yeah, we'd love to see him get a young tight end beyond Robert Tonyan. We'd love to see them get maybe the fixture at right tackle for the next 7-8 years. We'd love to see them get another edge rusher to complement the free agents. The safety priority is certainly going to be there. So, but how everything falls in front of them is pretty much going to dictate what Brian does. That's what he talks about all the time. They've got that horizontal board of players by position, the vertical board ranking 1 through 400, or how many there are. And when the two meet, that's the guy.
Yeah, I have a hard time with the tight end at 12 argument, and not necessarily because I don't think Hawkinson's going to be a good player, but if you go through the entire NFL, there's 4 tight ends that are legitimate difference makers that are so far above the mean. One of them's Zach Ertz, one of them's Kelsey, one of them's Gronkowski, and the other one would be Kittle. So if you've got 4 out of 32, that make a legitimate difference, it says the batting average in the draft isn't that great, because otherwise, if it was higher, there would be more impact players that were complete difference makers. And so I just don't, unless you think Hawkinson is one of those 4, I just don't get it.
It's interesting. That's really good. I never thought about it that way. But I'm going to take the other approach to it.
Sure.
If you're going to run the football, which they profess they're going to run the football, and you think you need to give Rodgers another target, which I think they do, then T.J. Hawkinson does those things. But that's a great way of looking at it, the way that you did. But this is the guy, he is an unbelievable blocker.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a guy who watches like a ton of
Does
film.
does that put him way above Noah Fant?
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
because for this offense where LaFleur says he's going to run the ball,
Right.
his history is he's going to run
Right.
the ball.
The
I mean,
way-
he just creams people.
And I'm not comparing them at all in terms of what they did, because this comparison won't make sense. But in terms of where he lined up and how he was used, Font to me looks much more like what a Lance Kendricks was than somebody who's going to line up on the end of the line of scrimmage. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to be in the H-back. He's going to move around. And I'm not saying Font is Kendricks, but I'm saying that's the type of positional play he warrants, I think, more so than Hawkinson, who can give you that traditional inline.
The inline, what we thought Mercedes Lewis was going to be, who could also attack down the field, all of 3 catches.
10 years ago.
In 2018. All right.
With Lewis, why do you think he wasn't targeted more this past season?
He wasn't on the field.
Just
first of all.
yeah, he just wasn't.
What was
that's
the
a-
snaps percentage?
That was the thing that struck me about McCarthy. He played tight end, McCarthy did. He talked about the value of the position.
Right.
It's like he forgot the guy was on the team. I don't know what to do with Mercedes Lewis. It
I'm
was
also
remarkable.
stunned that a 37-year-old Mercedes Lewis got anything more than the league minimum.
Sure.
I mean, to me, that's insane. A guy that's 37 getting $2 million after a year when he caught 3 balls, that's ridiculous.
But
He
maybe
didn't catch 5.
But maybe LaFleur sees him as a potential weapon, or more so than maybe what McCarthy
We'll
thought
find out
was going to
come
fit into.
Friday, because I'm sure by the end of round 3 they're going to grab a tight end at one spot or another. if not 12. I think there's still a couple that are going to be available come second or third round that I think can play.
It's time to end the rental stuff at some
Yeah.
point. I mean,
I agree.
you've gone from Cook to Bennett to Graham, and Graham. You look, I mean, Graham wouldn't be here if he wasn't getting paid $1 zillion, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, it's time to find an answer to it.
All right. So they need a lot, no question about it.